to the second segment of Global Morning here on Global Television. All right, it is a World Day for Cultural Diversity, for Dialogue and Development. And joining me to talk about culture in Nigeria and how it has helped to shape the nation in general is the president of Afro Caribbean Chamber of Culture and Tourism, in the person of Honorable Quadri Adu Kende. You're welcome to Global Morning.
Thank you.
All right, it's a very big day where we'll talk about culture and diversity and talk about the dialogue and how it's helping to develop us. But then let's begin the conversation from first. The issues around culture, conversation around cultures tend to be diminishing, even around Nigeria and by extension, Africa, because we are beginning to adopt borrowed culture across the world to begin to try to reinvent our practices. But in your own assessment, how will you rate the cultural practices right now in Nigeria in terms of deliverables in dialogue and development of Nigeria in general?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, Africa. When we talk of culture, it's something that is part of us. There's no way you can rule out culture in your everyday life. And that is why I don't want to follow that step of saying the culture is diminishing. To some extent, even in your own family, we have everyday to-day activities. Every day, you use culture, even in a family, to correct things in the family, you use culture. Then coming to government, our day-to-day activities, even at the government level, culture is part of it. It may be diminishing maybe because of government policies, in this part of the world. There are some countries that don't joke with their culture. Even look at what's happened in Rome. Culture is part of religion now. When they want to appoint the new pope, they went through a lot of cultural activities, because when you mention culture in Nigeria, people will look at it as maybe you are talking of traditions. They are two different things, because knowing how to drink, knowing how to talk to people, knowing when to talk, knowing when not to talk, these are cultural practices. And it has been part of our daily activities. So what will make it diminish from your own assessment, the way you spoke about it now, is maybe government policies, and then the way people, the way we're supposed to hold culture, maybe we are not holding it that way. Because culture is big. Culture is massive. When you're talking of culture, you're talking of tourism. You're talking of culture, you're talking of the clothes, the type of clothes we're wearing. You talk of the food we eat. You talk of our way of life. This is our culture. So for it to diminish, maybe the impact of the way government handle it, but any serious country will not joke with culture.
All right. So, Kenny, let's look at this issue of culture again from a very strong standpoint. Now, you've said that the culture you would agree that it's diminishing. But then again, we have a conversation around the fact that these cultures in Nigeria, today is a World Cultural Diversity Day, and we're not talking about any of this even within Nigeria. We're not celebrating this day. We're not celebrating our unity in diversification. When you look at this, is it that we are not aware, or we don't just want to talk about the diversity that has been able to effectively promote our cultures in Nigeria?
Everything is still come back to government. The Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. This is a ministry that's supposed to wake up today and say, well, we're celebrating this. And then not only that alone, even under the ministry, we have National Council for Arts and Culture, NCAC. These are organizations that should stand up today and say we're celebrating this. But when you look at what is happening in Nigeria today, you know, a whole lot of things, you know, is affecting so many things, because even the ministry, the government agencies you are talking about, they will tell you there's no money to do anything, because there's no way we will want to celebrate this in Nigeria, even to create awareness, let people know about what culture is all about today. Let's talk about diversity, cultural diversity today. Let students in their schools know that today is day of cultural diversity. It involves money. And when you go to all this ministry, they tell you there's no money. So it still boils down to government policy. It's high time our government take culture serious, because culture, you know, some people may look at it as you know, culture can provide jobs. Culture can change narratives. With culture, even at the National Assembly, they will behave well. At the executive level, they will behave well. Judiciary will behave well if we take culture the way we should take it.
All right. I quite agree with you on that stance. But again, let's draw this conversation to another perspective, in the sense of the technology and the evolution of our cultural practices in Nigeria. And we look at Nigeria as a case study. The East, the West, the North, and South have various cultural practices. And there is large unity in this diversity. But in terms of cultural development, in terms of advancing the course of our technology and dialoguing for progress in the country, we've not seen that play out. Rather, we've seen our cultures have become a weapon for disunity in Nigeria. You want to throw your weight around this conversation. How best can we begin to talk about culture in order to harness the good of Nigeria?
Thank you very much. Well, like I rightly say, it depends on the way you look at it, the perspective you look at it. Because like I rightly mentioned earlier, culture can change the narratives. It's one thing to understand culture. It's one thing to know how to use it to the betterment of the populace. Nigerians, you know, God brought us together. The entity called Nigeria is God Almighty that brought North, East, West, you know, brought us together. But what is causing a kind of altercation? What is causing issues among the tribe is not culture, but politics. We brought politics in place of culture, because it's politics and religion. Religion is part of culture, but the way we are using it in this part of the world is to the detriment of the populace. You know, because you are a Muslim or you are a Christian, you cannot work together, you cannot do this together until we stop that. And what can stop that is culture. Cultural diversity, like you rightly mentioned, you know, we've been doing that in the past. A man will wake up, a man from Lagos will travel down to the east and marry their daughter. And now some will say, no, I want to marry a Yoruba girl, you know. And then with culture, they will make everything easier for them, you know. But in this day and age, when we should be talking about the technological advancement you are talking about, people will tell you that because my daughter because I'm a Christian, my daughter cannot marry a Muslim. Because I'm an Ijaw man, my son cannot marry somebody from the north. You know, until we stop that. And what can stop that is culture. First thing is, let us understand culture. Let us know that with culture, it can bring a whole lot of opportunities. With culture, any country that embraces culture the way they should embrace it, even the GDP will increase drastically. I'm coming back to that later, because when we want to talk about, we start talking about the commercialization of culture, the business angle of culture. You know.
Adukani, we always know that you're always a businessman, and when it has to do with business, you're always ignited and excited to talk about business. But before we get to the business side of that conversation, culture, by definition, has been said to be the total way of life
of the people,
of a particular group of people over a given period of time. And that's the elementary definition of culture. But when it has to do with cultural diversity, when we mention culture in Nigeria, there is a narrative that most Nigerians hold sway to, and that's the fact that most cultural practices are usually diabolic, and most cultural practices are something that you shouldn't be identified with. You want to talk to us about this narrative? How safe is the culture, and how safe can we say we want to allow diversification and embrace diversity of our culture? How safe is it?
Well, it's safe. If we don't embrace it, other countries are embracing it. I read something, there was an information day before yesterday that Brazil has become the cultural, cultural capital of the world. What makes Brazil to become cultural capital of the world? It's because of all these things that we are saying is diabolic, in this part of the world. When you're talking of Oya, when you're talking of Shango, they evolved from Nigeria, from southwest here. There's a place they call Ujubo Shango in southwest, where Shango came out from. And the history has supported that. Shango, Oya, Obatala, all these gods that we don't value here. In Brazil, they don't joke with it. They worship them. They do a lot of programs around them. And what we say is diabolical, diabolical here. They embrace it because they see it as their own religion. So it's their own religion, and they do it, they are making good money from it. To the extent that the city of Bahia in Brazil, they've legalized Yoruba as their second language. As their second language. If you are into tradition, religion, and you go to Brazil, and not only Brazil, even some other Caribbean nation, you make good money. So what you call diabolical here, to them, is their religion. Why not let us come together and say that let's make use of this to our advantage? Because these people believe in Oya, they worship Oya, they worship Shango, and we don't believe in it.
Couldn't the perception be that a lot of people that worship Oya and Shango, Obatala, Amadioa, Mbokomboko, Atimekbebo, and what have you in Nigeria, couldn't the conversation be that most people that worship some of these gods have become very fetishly wicked and use those practices to commit havoc even to the society? That's why people have relegated some of these practices to the back door of the bedrock for wickedness and evil. Couldn't this be the conversation?
Well, the colonial masters, when they came, the first thing they said, even before coming, is that how can we capture Africa? The only way to capture Africa is collect their religion and let's give them our own. And they did that. I'm a Muslim. I don't practice Obatala, but people that believe in it, let us leave them. Don't call them, don't call them names. Because what you think is diabolical here, somewhere else is something good, But the Westerners came and look at it that the only way we can capture Nigerians is let's introduce our religion. Let's bring missionaries to go into interland and preach the gospel to people. And they succeeded. But look at a country like India. They went there too, but up to today, India still believe in their traditions. They don't throw it away. They marry every time. When you're talking of where technology is evolving seriously now, that you can't go leave their house. They are brilliant, but they don't joke with their religion. Their traditional religion.
All right. Honorable Kenny, just as we begin to pack our things to leave the studio this morning, let's talk about, in terms of some culture, And today being the day for cultural diversity and dialogue for development, let's look at all of this. You are a cultural enthusiast. You've traveled far and wide across the world. What do you think that Nigerians should begin to do differently in order to embrace our culture, and especially for younger Nigerians that are watching you this morning? What should be the takeaway for them?
Good. To government, there should be good policies to support culture, because when you are talking of culture, you are talking of tourism, like I rightly mentioned. When you're talking of culture, you are talking of entertainment. When you're talking of culture, you are talking of the people who are into supply of our clothing. You are talking of culture, so many ways. So if we can have from government, we have a right policy, and then the Ministry of Culture, let the budget of that ministry, let government do something about it, so that it can, they can have money to do so many things. And then even the ministry, what they put in one ministry is too much. It's only in Nigeria where you have a Ministry of Culture, art is big, culture is big, tourism is big, creative economy, one ministry. It's that time we call on government. We fought, we clamor for it that time that there should be a separate ministry for tourism. And President Nweke and did that. But after some times, they gave it to one, they compressed the ministry again. We are still calling on federal government of the government, the present administration, that let us have separate ministry for tourism. Let creative economy and culture, be on their own. Tourism is big. There are some countries that don't have anything. Their GDP and everything is on tourism. Nigeria can do the same thing. We have a lot we can make good money from, aside oil. So it's high time we're calling on government to, the present administration should consider this. That ministry is too big, it's too large for one person to administer.
All right, but that's how far we can go with this conversation. I want to say thank you so much, Honorable Quadri Abdul Kendi, the president of AFRO